Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and it's once again time for the asking of the Herbert Erpaderp. The 80th asking of the Herbert Erpaderp, in fact. That seems like a lot, and it is. Let's get to the questions. John Tell said, is the Plastic Soldier Company as good as people say? Of course, it pays to take any kind of hype with a grain of salt. I think they're pretty good though, but I guess it depends on what you actually want. Personally, I've only really built their 15mm scale stuff and it's very consistently good. It goes together easily and sensibly, except for some of the multi-part tracks which can be a pain regardless of manufacturer, and they look quite good. That said, they are gaming models. Their larger scale stuff might be a bit different, but you're definitely not going to be getting hyper-detailed stuff from the Plastic Soldier Company in 15mm. They are rather good though, at least in my opinion. I know a lot of people do prefer them over Battlefront's models for games like Flames of War. Also, they're relatively cheap. It probably won't break the bank if you were to buy a box of them to try out if you wanted to see what they're like. Henry the Panzerfaust said, ever heard of or played a World War II FPS game called Day of Infamy? I have, I played it with Barnaby one time. I think we were trying to find something new and interesting after being really burned out playing Rust, but it didn't really grab us. I vaguely remember someone on our team being very mad at me for not playing how they thought I should, which was pretty fun, but I didn't really enjoy the game as much as I wanted. I guess at the time I just wasn't really in the mood for that kind of game. Henry also mentioned Heroes and Generals. And I have played many hours of Heroes and Generals on and off over the years. There's a few older videos on my channel about it. I haven't played for a long time because it just got too grindy to make any kind of progress, and like Day of Infamy, it's the kind of game I have to be in the mood for. A lot of the time I just don't really feel like being a shooty man who runs forwards and dies over and over. Gentleman said, what is your dream car, and what is your current car? I don't really have a specific dream car. I'm not into cars at all, so I have no idea about them. What I want though is something that doesn't cost much to run or maintain, something that's quiet and comfortable for drive for long stretches because I regularly drive reasonably long distances. Nothing extreme, but driving something noisy and uncomfortable for an hour or so just isn't fun in my books. My current car is a Mitsubishi Magna. It mostly fits the above, but it's getting older and it is a 6-cylinder so it uses a bit too much fuel, and fuel isn't getting cheaper, so I want something more efficient. John Hell said, is it okay to ping you? Yeah, if you've got something I need to know or that I would be interested in, then yeah, that's fine. But I'd really rather not be getting loads of pings containing nothing of importance, if that makes sense. If you're annoying, I'll probably block or ban you depending on how annoying it is. Also, sometimes I might take a while to respond. Quite often I don't even realise there's a message, so patience is a good idea. Top Bunk Productions said, are you Herbert Erpaderp? If so, then this must be your ID. I found your ID in this wallet. If that's the case, then this must be your wallet. Take it. That really is good. I don't know what you would call it. Fan art? Fan ID? I was really amused by it. I know I told you that already, but I still think it's really great. I should actually print it out. It gave me a really good laugh, but that's not my wallet. I have a Fallout wallet because I'm an adult. Somebody must have stolen my ID. Australian Train Nut said, since I have type 1 diabetes, what's it like having type 2? I heard you guys have it easy compared to us. I wouldn't really know, I have type 1. I understand that type 2 is a lot easier to deal with and has a lot to do with being overweight. I'm a bit envious. If I could make my diabetes go away or at least be less serious with exercise and proper eating, I would. Duncanuva said, what ship should I paint purple next for super realistic paint scheme? I don't know. A Prinz Eugen would be good to pair up with the Bismarck maybe, or perhaps you could do one of the ships the Bismarck fought. You could claim that they're fighting over the right to be purple or something. Really, I think you should just paint whatever ship you feel like. Penfoldo7 said, what software and hardware do you use to make your YouTube videos? The software is Adobe Creative Cloud, mainly Premiere, Audition and Photoshop. I also use After Effects from time to time. It's expensive, but the software plays together so nicely and I really enjoy using it. Also, because I guess it's kind of part of the software, I use Google Docs and Sheets to keep track of everything. For hardware, I've got my PC, which I think I spoke about recently. It's an i7 that's a couple of years old now, but it's still pretty good. And I've got a GTX 1060 that I would like to upgrade, but that also works fine. For a camera, I use my phone, which is a Galaxy S9, and I film in 2K so that I've got a bit of space to reframe my shots if I need to. The microphone I'm using is an AverMedia AM310. Up until a few months ago I used a Blue Yeti, and I'm thinking about buying some different mics that have XLR connectors. I'd kind of like a nice dynamic mic for when condenser mics pick up too much background noise. I've also got some cheap IKEA lamps for lighting, all with matching light bulbs, and some cheap arms and clips for mounting cameras and microphones that I got from places like eBay and Daiso. I can't think of anything else that I use. Stormland, if that's how you say that name, said, would you put a KV2 turret on a Volkswagen Golf? Do people still do these questions, lol? I would, but I think a Golf is pretty small, so it'd probably be more like putting a Golf into a KV2 turret, but sure, why not? And people do still ask these questions. I mean, you did. Ducking Tanker said, if you could continue answering KV2 questions, would you? Sure, I mean, I'm the one who determines if I could answer the questions or not, so as long as they keep coming, I can choose to answer them or not. Henry the Panzerfaust said, in another Ask a Herbert Erpaderp you mention your band where you and Barnaby met. Have you got any recordings of your music? I saw this question and I was going to try and dig up some old videos or something on old hard drives, but then I forgot. There's no time for that right now, but if you're really interested I'll put something up. I'm sure I've still got some copies of CDs around here somewhere too. We never really did a lot of recording, and a lot of the live videos have been lost too, but I will try find something to share. London said, are you willing to maybe build an STRV-103? I did have to Google it to figure out that the STRV-103 is the S-Tank, and that is one of the more interesting post-war tank designs. I don't have a kit for one or any specific plans to get one, but if I do see one for a good price I definitely wouldn't be opposed to buying it. I wouldn't hold your breath though. I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to work through before buying any more non-wargaming kits. Max Strike Eagle said, can you cope with the fact that the BT-42 was very heavy and would never be able to jump? Of course it couldn't jump with that attitude. Where there's a will, there's a way. Top Bunk Productions said, have you heard of the fan series If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device? If not, I highly recommend it. It introduced me to the epic grimdark lore of Warhammer 40k, though I still refuse to buy the models until they get cheaper, through a highly amusing and silly lens. I've not. I can't really say that I'm that interested in 40k lore, though I do enjoy highly amusing and silly lenses, so maybe it's worth checking out sometime. Eastern Union said, will you be making a video on the tank you're making for the group build? I will be, but it will take a fair while for the video to be done. The main reason I'm actually taking part in the group build is because I've been thinking of building that tank for a while, and it just happened to fit the topic perfectly. I'm going to try and get it painted before the end of the group build too, but I don't think I'll get there at the rate I'm going. Things keep coming up and I'm well behind where I wanted to be with it. But I will try. Ratto said, if you had the power to turn the Australian flag's background colour pink so that it's the new official flag, would you? I sure would, in a heartbeat. I would also want to remove the Union Jack and the stars, and just have it as a nice pink field, but just replacing the blue would be fine too. Imagine how many insecure bogans would be pissed off. It would be very funny. Ratto also asked if my water cooler is a custom one or an all-in-one. It's an all-in-one, made by Corsair. I've forgotten which model specifically. I would much rather use an all-in-one because there's less messing about involved. I just wanted something that would work right out of the box with minimum effort and setup. If I was trying to make my PC look all fancy, I would probably get something custom and interesting looking. But as it is, nobody's going to see it, and I think I'm too old and impatient for that kind of thing now. Some dude said, have you heard of Gillows kits? Gillows? Guillows? Gallows? However you say that. They are scale balsa wood gliders and they fly and look really good. I'd not heard of them, but I did just look on Google and they do look to be really good. I would be kind of worried that it would just get destroyed if I tried to fly it. They certainly look good though and are probably a lot of fun. Plaid Squid 41030 said, if you had the power to turn Australia's flag into a KV2 so that it's the new official flag, have I stolen this question from Ratto? You certainly have, and I think the right thing to do would be to give it back. Pebble Monkey said, why pink? Everyone knows green is the best colour choice. What you're doing there is stating an opinion as though it's a fact, which is clearly wrong. Otherwise I wouldn't think that pink was the better choice. LG the MLG 360 nub said, would you yeet at a funeral? I've got no idea what yeeting is, but I would expect it's something obnoxious that appeals to kids and would rightfully earn me a punch in the mouth at a funeral, so no, I don't think I would do it. Ratto said, Russians are playing video games 24/7. Should Russians conquer some lands or islands near Australia so you could have people to play 24/7? They don't speak English though and they're toxic, but lower queue times? Last time I was on the World of Tanks test server, it was full of Russians, and it kind of sucked, mostly because they go super tryhard mode, and all I wanted to do was look at the new maps. It's not really fair to single out Russians as toxic though, because the average person who identifies as a gamer is kind of toxic no matter where they're from. Somehow they've all fucked your mum, they've all just learned a new racist word, and they take video games way too seriously. I guess lower queue times is a good thing, and if they're only speaking Russian I have no idea if they're being toxic or not, so maybe it's not so bad. Actually, thinking back, I remember fighting the Russians a lot in EVE Online. For whatever reason they always stick together, but it was actually pretty fun. They were almost always up for a fight, and wouldn't just dock up when they found out our fleet was coming. Russians conquering nearby islands, however, sounds like a pretty bad idea. The Tourette's Gamer said, do you think your mice could best my rats in a breakfast biscuit eating contest? And they've shared an adorable video. I doubt they could, mice are much smaller than rats, so the rats would have the big advantage of being big. It would be adorable though, and I really enjoyed the video. John Hell said, what's the ratio of mid and late war tanks compared to early war tanks? I'm not sure what the context for this question is. Do you mean tanks that existed in real life, or models in my collection? If it's the latter, I have no idea and I'm way too lazy and don't care enough to figure it out. Top Bunk Productions said, if Hetz is Hetz and Panth is Panth, what does yagding a panth mean exactly? Is yagding directly involved in the process of panthing? Which out of the two is the more crucial part of the process? Does the operation end with yagding, panthing, or is yagding a panth its own thing entirely? I ask this because I possess 2 unbuilt armor-fast Yagd panthers still in the box and I need to know how to use them properly once I build them. Yagd panthers can both panth and yagd a panth, but it's very hard for a panther to yagd a panth, so it's rarely done. They're entirely different processes. Yagding a panth is a lot more deliberate and cautious than just plain old panthing. You could say it's a bit like hunting. Of course, I'm not an expert on the subject, so you might need to find somebody who knows what they're talking about for more information. And with that, question time is over. It's now time for the models. Again, in the interest of time, I've not shared absolutely everything that's been posted to Discord, so if you want to see everything, be sure to go and join the server and feel free to share your own models too. First, John Tell shared his T-34s having a bit of a romp in the grass. Those blood splatters give me the feeling that these are quite murderous tanks. Or maybe they previously had tank riders. Either way, nice picture. Also, John Tell shared this T-34 turret, which is a bit more interesting than the average T-34 turret. The gunner is in the middle of opening his hatch. I quite liked that. I think it adds a lot of interest to the model and it's not something you see very often at all. It's a very good idea and it's been executed quite well. TM Gamer shared this plane. It's not too bad. The camo pattern is well placed and looks good, though I would definitely suggest thinning your paints a bit. You'll have to apply more coats with them, but it'll look much neater. Not bad though. I want to encourage you to keep working at it. You'll keep improving with each model you do. Henry, your boy, shared some 1/300th scale tanks. These include 2 Panthers and an assault gun, a Nashorn and a Panzer IV. Those are some teeny tiny little tanks, even smaller than the GHQ ones I did a while ago. Very nice. Top Bunk Productions shared the gun cover on his T-80, which has been given disruptive camouflage. The cover is made from tissue paper which was dipped in PVA glue before being draped over the gun and creased to add interesting detail, then painted. I think it's pretty good. And here's the T-80 in, I believe, its completed state. This is some very nice work. The gun cover is really interesting and adds a lot. Also, the commander is interesting too. I believe that's the figure with the gas mask made from Das Clay Top Bunk shared a while ago. Nice work. And here is a couple of images of Top Bunk's Stabby Mans. He commented, what a difference adding red makes. And it really does make a huge difference. These are very cool. Very stabby. James Valentine shared this Stug 3. This is the Rubicon model, and the crew are from Perry Miniatures. It looks like James has added his own antennas, and the hedgerow cutters on the front are a really cool touch too. I don't think those came with the kit, but I quite like them. Same with the little side skirts, which look to be parts from a Hetzer. Very nice. Burner581 shared this rather nice T80BV, or at least that's what Burner thinks it's called. I'm willing to go with it. My modern tank identification skills aren't great. I can identify a nicely done model though, and this is certainly one of those. Good work. London shared this S-tank. I don't really know a lot about S-tanks, but London says this one is the B version and that they've got a C version in the making. I think this is quite nicely done. London also shared this, I think it's a Stridsvagn 122, which I believe is the Swedish version of the Leopard 2, and this third tank which I can't identify. It looks like a good model, though if I had one suggestion it would definitely be to use more light when taking pictures. That said, I've seen some more of your pictures and they are much better lit, like this captured Mark V. Very cool indeed. Pebble Monkey said that they are hooked on Warlord stuff now, sharing this collection of British tanks which look really nice, as well as this collection of Panthers and a Stug, which is of course living the Stug life, as they do. Shermanaholic has been working on something for his Shermans to shoot at. These were initially going to be painted for the desert, but Shermanaholic decided that they will now be fighting against his enemy at the gates, Soviets, so they're grey now. And here's a few examples of whitewashing that Shermanaholic was playing around with. These are all quite interesting. I think I like the stripes over the green the most. It makes me want to have a go at whitewashing myself. And here's Shermanaholic's first tanky boy. Looks very neatly painted, and I rather like the blue uniform colour too. And here's something that some dude has been working on. It's a fictional modification to an M41 Bulldog. It's got some extra armour plates and a gun from a Panther, which seems very sensible. It's very creative. I really like seeing random kit bashes like that. And here it is with some paint. At this stage the decals haven't been added, and some dude says he still wants to add some washes and matte coats, but it's still looking pretty good at this point, and I can't wait to see it totally finished. I don't need help anymore shared this glorious T34. There's a lot of tiny bits of photo etch on this model, and it has turned out quite nice. There were actually quite a few progress pictures of this model and they were very good, but I've decided just to show these two finished ones here. I'm excited to see how this ends up looking when it's painted. Here's a diorama made by Max Strike Eagle. This looks stunningly realistic, and I really like it. There's a lot of natural materials here, a lot of real twigs and bits and pieces like that. I keep seeing something new and different each time I look at this. Very nice work. Cartool shared this diorama of a panther that's passing through a wall. The model itself is a kit bash. Cartool used a dragon hull, Edward photo etch, an artillery turret, and a metal barrel. Apparently there wasn't a proper late G turret when this was built. Very cool work. General Spade shared these two figures that they've recently done. I'm not entirely sure what these are and who's made them. They are fantasy figures of some kind and I think they're pretty good. Spade is really proud of them and rightly so. Good work. Harry is Loving Rusty Spoons shared these. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but look at that guy in the middle. That's really cool. Is that a big teethy mouth on his stomach, or is it a weird bone structure under an injury? Either way, I really like it. Byzantine Falcon has been working on this 28mm scale graveyard. This is a bunch of 3D prints and it looks pretty good so far. Australian Train Nut shared this work in progress of Tenterfield Station. I'm not familiar with the real Tenterfield Station itself. Is that an actual model of the station, or a suitably similar MDF building? Either way, it's quite nice. The Tourette's Gamer shared this Warlord resin and metal Daimler armoured car. They also shared a quick story of their grandfather who worked on these vehicles told them, and I quote, "He once told me about a time they used straw as makeshift camouflage for an exercise, but it caught ablaze, and apparently the commander jumped straight out, and left him, the radio operator and the driver to get the burning straw off the vehicle, and I am pleased to say that he is still telling me about his time in the army to this day." I really liked that story, it put a really funny mental image into my head, so I figured I would share it here too. Also, you've done a really good job with that model. Ducking Tanker shared her French lieutenant. This is one fancy looking officer, and I really like all the details you've picked out, and that mustache. Very nice. And here's a 650 point game. I like the resourcefulness of using random boxes and stuff as terrain. I've played many games like that myself. Also, this poor B1 ended up on fire. Rest in peace, sweet prince. And that's it for the modelling this fortnight. We shall now have a look at some of the arts and crafts that have been shared. Here's Eastern Union's first oil painting. It's a happy little IS-7. That's pretty cool. I've never tried oil painting myself, but this kind of makes me want to give it a try. And here's an incomplete drawing of a Spinosaurus aegyptus. I've probably said that wrong. And here it is completed. It's coloured based upon the area that this theropod might have lived in. I think it's really nice. Eastern Union is also working on this Gorgonops drawing. Again, I've probably said that totally wrong, but it looks pretty good. It looks to me like it's sneaking out from behind a tree or a cave or a wall or something. If it were animated, it would need some good skulking music. Very cool. Duncanuva drew this as a request from a friend. It's a character of his as a Deathclaw with a robotic arm. I wonder if the robotic arm is more deadly than the Deathclaw claw. And here's an old picture of a fictional Zoid belonging to Duncanuva's Halo OC. Are you telling me that there's also non-fictional Zoids? Either way, nice work. Postapo Gestapo shared this sideways Tim Tom's conure in watercolour. This is really awesome. And here it is after being scanned and rotated around the right way. This is really impressive work. And here's a birthday card for somebody named Jaden. What an excellent card, and I'm sure it was very much appreciated. Top Bunk Productions made a doodle of his World War III T-80. It looks like it's heroically charging into battle at full speed. Very cool. So that's it for the arts and crafts. If you want to share your own arts and crafts, there's a channel on the Discord server for that, so feel free. As with the modelling pictures, I haven't showed absolutely everything from the channel, and I've mostly focused on stuff that's been physically drawn or painted, so go and check it out to see the rest. And that's it for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp this fortnight. As always, a big thank you to everyone who submitted models or artwork. It's awesome and I really enjoy seeing it. Also, thank you to everyone who asked a question. If you've got something you want answered on next fortnight's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, be sure to put it in the comments section below, or in the appropriate channel on Discord. And if you haven't already, why not sub here on YouTube, join our community on Discord, follow me on social media, or watch me stream on Twitch. And if you really like what I do, please consider supporting over on Patreon, or perhaps by purchasing a shirt or mug from my merch store. Links to all of those things are in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon, so until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.